changed everything.
Whiskey does that too.
That's the next phase 3.
Phase 3.
That's what happens when you have 7 kids.
This computer's gonna die.
One of those that has a bad battery and never fixes it.
Yeah.
Pretty bad.
Okay, it's 9 a.m. June 19th. It's Juneteenth. And when I found out it was Juneteenth, I was like, we're really meeting on Juneteenth?
Yeah.
And then I learned myself that it's a state holiday, it's a federal holiday, but it's not a city or county holiday. So, yeah. So we're here, but I think, it's appropriate to say that it is, Emancipation Day, this day in 1863, proclamation made that all enslaved people were free. So it's certainly a day to commemorate, and thank you for being here today. Like to go through roll call, please.
Sure. Caitlin Early,
Here.
Mike Powers, Gary Howe, Todd McMillan, Shelley Spencer, Amy Shamrow,
Here.
Jeff DeBron,
Here.
Pete Kirkwood, and Ed Slosky.
Here. Okay, we have quorum. Okay, we have hope everyone has got a chance to review the agenda today. Any questions on the agenda? If not, may I have a motion for approval?
Move to approve the agenda as presented.
Second by Mr. Howe or Pete? Okay, I'm sorry, Mr. Kirkwood. All right. All those in favor of approving the agenda, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Agenda carries. We always have 2 public comment sessions, one at the beginning of the meeting and one at the end of the meeting. Is there anyone who wishes to give public comment? Seeing none, we'll move on to the next item, which is the consent calendar. So the purpose of the consent calendar is to expedite business by grouping non-controversial items together to be dealt with by one DDA board motion without discussion. Any member of the DDA board, staff, or the public may ask that any item on the consent calendar be removed therefrom and placed elsewhere on the agenda for individual consideration by the DDA board, and such request will be automatically respected. If an item is not removed from the consent calendar, the action noted in parentheses on the agenda is approved by a single DDA board action adopting the consent calendar. Item A, consideration of approving the minutes from the May 15th, 2026 DDA regular board meeting. Approval recommended. Item B, consideration of approving the May financial reports and distributions from the DDA General, Old Town TIF, and TIF 97 funds. Approval is recommended. Item C, consideration of approving the May 2026 financial report and distribution from the Traverse City Arts Commission. Approval recommended. Is there anyone on the board or in the public wish to remove any of these items from the consent calendar? Looks like there's none, so may I have a motion for approval of the consent calendar?
Motion to approve the consent calendar as written.
Okay, motion made by Ms. Early.
I'll support it.
I'll say Mr. Joe Braun on that one. Any further discussion? All those in favor of approving the consent calendar?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, special order of business, public hearing on the 2026-2027 DDA budgets. Now let Harry tee that up.
Actually, if you just want to open the public hearing.
Sure. So just for housekeeping matters, the City Commission has approved the DDA budget, and now it is time for the DDA to approve the DDA budget. But before we could do that, we have to have a public hearing. The public hearing was originally scheduled for last month, but due to some administrative issues with regards to publishing notices in the paper, we had to set the public hearing for this month. This public hearing is now open for the 2026 to 2027 DDA budget.
Just to follow up, all of the budget documents are in your packet. We have discussed this, and to Ed's point, the City Commission has approved this. So at this point, we'll see if there's any public comments.
Any public comment or anyone from the board on the budget? Public comment on the budget? Seeing none, then I will close the public hearing and move on to old business. Item A, which actually is the budget approval.
Right.
So, hope everyone has had the opportunity to review the budget. We've talked about it. Again, it's been approved by the city commission. Any questions on this before we go for a potential vote? If,
I'm gonna just-
okay, so please,
Yeah.
please, Mayor.
So I'll just make the motion then that the DDA Board of Directors hereby approves the 2026-2027 budget as follows. Is that really part of the motion, reading it out? Or just say
The
approves the
numbers,
budget? Okay. Downtown Development Authority General Fund, $2,331,640. Tax increment financing, District 97, Tax increment financing, District 97 Fund, $7,395,630. Tax increment financing, District Old Town Fund, $1,481,980. End of motion.
Motion made by the mayor. Is there a second?
I will second it.
Second by Mr. McMillan. Any further discussion? Okay, I will call for the vote. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, and our budget has been approved. Okay, item B, TIF 97 project priorities.
I just want to highlight just where we are with the three projects that we've been discussing for the better part of 2 years. Farmers Market Pavilion, we are continuing to work with the city engineering department and the contractors to just make sure everything is set for what we anticipate to be breaking ground in July after the Cherry Festival. And Rotary Square, we have received construction drawings from Progressive, and now we are coordinating with City Engineering Office for formal bid documents that we plan to release this fall, with the anticipation that we would break ground the spring of 2027. And then for the Boardman Ottaway restoration infrastructure work, we are working with Inform Studio to get a proposal for this last phase, which is the development of the construction drawings. That would then come, that contract would come before this board either in July or August, and then we would commence that work this summer. Part of what we're looking at as part of this agreement is how long that process would take, but I anticipate coming before you with that contract for approval, again, within July or August.
Any questions on our current projects? Okay, item C, proposed development and TIF plan.
Okay, if you indulge me just for a minute, I do want to say a few words before we move into discussion and consideration of the TIF plan. But I want to take a moment to acknowledge the significant amount of work that has brought us to this point that you have all been involved with. Over the past 4 years, the DDA board, DDA staff, elected and appointed officials from the city, and the participating taxing jurisdictions, community stakeholders, downtown businesses, property owners, and residents of Traverse City have invested considerable time discussing the TIF tool, its merits, and its role in the future of Traverse City. This process has included difficult conversations, thoughtful debate, and most important, at least from the DDA's perspective, a willingness to listen to the community and consider new ideas and different perspectives. The plan before you today reflects many of those discussions, and to the residents of Traverse City, I want to say the DDA has heard you. This plan has evolved from its original proposal to include a shorter extension period, a revenue sharing component with the local taxing jurisdictions, limitations on future millage capture, dedicated funding commitments for infrastructure, maintenance, and especially stormwater improvements, a renewed focus on public infrastructure, both essential public infrastructure and transformational infrastructure, and essential services that support the entire community. At its core, this plan is about maintaining and improving public infrastructure and services that make downtown Traverse City accessible, safe, clean, resilient, and economically strong. It recognizes that infrastructure investments are not one-time expenditures, but ongoing responsibilities that require long-term planning and sustainable funding. TIF provides future community leaders with the proven and flexible tool to address the infrastructure challenges that will inevitably arise in the decades ahead. Just as previous community leaders invested in the streets, sidewalks, utilities, and public spaces that we rely on today, this plan helps ensure that future generations have the resources necessary to preserve, maintain, and strengthen those same assets. I want to thank everyone who participated in this process and helped shape the plan before us today, regardless of where individuals may stand on specific elements of the plan. The engagement and community conversation has made this a stronger and more thoughtful document. I also want to thank city staff for their help in shaping this plan, including the treasurer and assessing office who assisted with the future assessment revenue estimates that are in the plan, the engineering office who assisted in some of the cost estimates for our capital infrastructure projects, the GIS office for making the maps, and then the city manager's office for helping to educate and facilitate community conversations around the elements of this plan. Lastly, I want to emphasize to the residents of Traverse City that the DDA is committed to continuing this conversation. We understand that tax increment financing can be a complex topic, and we welcome the opportunity to meet with anyone who would like to learn more about the TIF tool or this plan. Whether it's a one-on-one conversation, a neighborhood meeting, a community group discussion, a living room gathering, an open forum, or any other setting, we are happy to participate. We want residents to have opportunities to ask questions, share concerns, and better understanding of how this plan works and what it means for our community. Our goal is transparency, education, and engagement, and that commitment does not end at this morning's action. The DDA remains available and eager to continue these conversations with anyone interested in learning more. So with that, I do want to talk about some of the elements of the plan that were updated since our last meeting. And this was done in part with the ad hoc committee, and so I think those members that want to jump in as part of this conversation, please do so. The biggest changes, and this is identified in your memo, is that with the approval of the Farmers Market Pavilion and the Rotary Square in both the budget and the ESA contract with the pavilion, we've removed them from the list of capital infrastructure projects. Again, it doesn't mean that we can't make further investments in those two sites, but we at least took them off the list. We also reduced the total amount of investment for the Bayfront Trail to $1 million. And this really reflects the cost-sharing approach that the city, the DDA, and TART had previously for other components of that same trail. And so with all of those reductions, the identified total amount of those projects has reduced to just over $114 million. We also, as a subcommittee, talked about the West Bay Lakeshore stabilization and identified with our joint meeting with the City Commission the high priority of that project in tune with the strategic action plan and the OKRs that the city's working on. So we just bumped that from a low priority to a high priority. But as we mentioned into the plan itself, the highs and low, the high, medium, low are just kind of placeholders, and so if certain opportunities arise where a low project becomes a high project, we can make that move and that decision. And then we had talked about having language that clarified the DDA's ability to support locally owned independent businesses through stabilization initiatives. We've included that, and that language is specifically in the plan. It's also in your memo, just to talk about some of the work that I think, Ed, you mentioned at our last meeting, about addressing that at least publicly in this document. And then the last thing that I just want to make note of, and I mentioned it in the just a second ago, was the exceptions. And we had in the original plan that all new special city millages would be exempt from TIF in the future after 2023. That is city and county, and that's also reflected in the plan. So I just want to make sure that everyone's aware of that. Otherwise, the biggest other consideration that's before you is the name of the plan itself. And it's, as I recognize in the memo, I think the Infrastructure First TIF plan really clearly articulates to the community the focus of this plan. And it's not to say that we're just focusing on just basics all the time. When we have the opportunity to do great infrastructure work, transformational work, a lot of times that's also basic infrastructure. So I want to just reiterate to the community that we are heavily focused on the core infrastructure that makes downtown work and makes this community work. The Development Area Citizens Council meeting was Wednesday night. Unfortunately, we did not have a quorum, but we did have a conversation, and we did hear some questions and some comments from those board members. And I just want to note some of those today. There was a comment about ways that we can use this plan and the actions of this body with the City Commission to really demonstrate more accountability in the way that projects are selected, contractors are selected, and so this is an opportunity to talk about that. There was a comment about the desire to see a continuation of the highlighting of the projects themselves. Sometimes they get lost in the shovel of community conversation, so the more that we can talk about what the project entails and what it means for the community, that's a good thing. There was a comment about the larger thought of the city commission and the city itself thinking about what the financial implications are if TIF is not extended. And then the last comment was make the maps bigger. So, and I think when our last edition that we will submit to the city commission, we're going to rotate the map so they fill the entire page, so it's just easier to see. And Scott, has had any comments to add about that meeting, because we didn't have a quorum, but you want to say anything about that?
As Harry notes, there was not a quorum. The provision in the statute that calls for the Citizens Committee contemplates a situation where the group may not be able to meet or may not be able to come to some sort of consensus. The statute allows that to happen and have the TIF plan still move forward for consideration by the City Commission, and in this case, ultimately the voters. So the lack of a quorum, while we would have rather had a quorum, of course, does not stop the process of going forward with the infrastructure first TIF plan, and you all can make a decision on that and move it forward to the City Commission if you so desire.
So with that long rambling speech, I turn it over to you guys for some discussion and then ultimately consideration.
I'll just make the quick comment is over the past, say, month, after our discussions in our last DDA meeting, I have met with various community leaders, talking about the TIF plan, talking about our revenue sharing, and probably just as we've seen perhaps in our joint city commission meeting, there are lots of different ideas on how the DDA should be moving forward and what our revenue sharing structure should be. But at the end of all those discussions, I look at what we're doing, and I have to believe from those discussions that what we're doing is reasonable, it's pragmatic, and it's defensible. So bottom line is I've gone out and done sort of my own sort of research as well, and have believed that we're on the right path.
Having been the chair of the subcommittee, I have to say that we have done very due diligence. We've studied this forwards, backwards, inside out, every possible scenario, and I have to say that we are ready. And we are focused, and I agree with you.
So as another, excuse me, as another member of the ad hoc, I really wanted to draw back to where we landed, because there's a lot in here that says, here's what we've changed. But I think it's really important to note that the previous iterations of suggested plans that was even adopted at one point by this board, though not the exact composite of this board, is not this plan. This plan is the Infrastructure First TIF plan, period. There are elements because of public feedback that was involved in the proposal of previous plans that have been included because we don't want to ignore what the public said, but that leaves us to where we are today. So it is the Infrastructure First TIF plan, period. It is a 70-30 split. That means that $18 million will go back to the city of Traverse City, $7 million to Grand Traverse County. That means that we are exempting every millage that has been passed since 2023, county and city. It means that this is only a 20-year plan this time. The list is still long. We know that we will not get to everything on the list. It will allow us, by keeping it long, though, it allows us the flexibility if other funding opportunities happen to come up, if city priorities change so we can be aligned with them, and it maps out infrastructure fixes that we can both assist our community on. And by community, I say the city, because it's all going to be in the city limits, but the county too, because we know that at least 50,000 people from the county come in on average every day to shop here, to work here, and to interact with our community here. So I really wanted to underline that because there's a lot of saying, this is how it's changed from the Moving Downtown Forward plan. This isn't the Moving Downtown Forward plan. This is its own plan. This is a plan that was made with an eye on those infrastructure changes. We have no money as a community. We have no money as a state, and we have very little money as a as a country on infrastructure right now. This is one of the only tools that we have to do this. Without this tool, there is going to be a very rude awakening, probably in 5 to 10 years, when people are really start to notice it, and that's always hard to do in politics in our fast-moving world. But this is so imperative to getting done the infrastructure things that our city needs done in the long term that the city itself can't do and will be an undue burden on the city taxpayers and leave all other users off the table for helping to carry that burden. And I cannot underline that enough, because this is going to be transformative if we can do it, and it's going to be very, very difficult for the city going forward if we don't do it. And that is what it boils down to. So at this time for this vote, I can't underline that enough, because that is the importance of what we're going to be talking about going forward as we take this to a vote to the people.
Val?
If we're ready, I'll make a motion. I'll just add, reiterate, Harry said it too. I really believe this is community-wide. It's a Traverse City plan, but it's also a regional plan for key infrastructure. I make the motion that the DDA board recognizes that I make the motion that the DDA board recognizes that the DDA board has taken all necessary steps and required action under Michigan's Recodified Tax Increment Financing Act, Public Act 57 of 2018, regarding the proposed Infrastructure First Development Tax Increment Finance Plan, and to formally submit and hereby approve said plan, and to direct staff to submit same to the city clerk in writing in accordance with the procedures of the City of Traverse City's implementation policy for Charter Section 28 TIF amendments.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Howell, second by the mayor. Any other further comments? I'll just make one further comment. This has been a sort of a 2-year journey, right? Most of this board was actually involved with the original Moving Downtown Forward plan. We all know what's happened with that process with regards to the charter amendment. But we did not sit. We looked at the plan. We got feedback. Members of our subcommittee looked and developed our priorities. Behind the scenes, staff did a lot of work. They reviewed TIF plans across the state. They looked at revenue sharing schemes that have been approved in Grand Rapids and in Ann Arbor. The plan, at least from a visual perspective as well, is much better now. They'll feel more confident about that. Obviously, we had a really interesting meeting, a strong meeting with the City Commission a couple months ago, but they gave us, I think, some valuable inputs on revenue sharing as well as a focus on infrastructure. And as a result, we have the plan that's before us today. I just want to thank this board for sticking through it. I'm pleased with the work. The hardest job may be ahead of us, but I think, at least I feel happy about the job that we've done in the past 2 years. And with that, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Congratulations. Next item under new business, something that we've been talking about as part of the evolution of our budget, and this would kick off one of those aspects, which is a update to our market study that was last done in 2022 as part of this larger TIF kind of discussion with Puma Associates, and that's the same group who did that in 2022. That's kind of phase 1 of this proposal, and phase 2 is something we've talked about was looking at the economic conditions within downtown for the future of small businesses and independent businesses and what that means. So looking at best practices around the United States about other communities, tools that they've used, or different ways that they've, again, supported their local downtown businesses. So this contract has those two components. With your approval, we would begin this process in July.
So obviously, I think we've discussed this many times, have concerns about, well, not concerns, but just, we're observing the changes in our downtown district, and hopefully we'll get some more data and maybe some more insights that will help us as we move forward.
I'll go ahead and make the motion.
Please.
I'll move that the DDA board enter into an agreement with the PUMA for costs associated with a market assessment update and best practices study for business retention for a not-to-exceed cost of $32,500 for TIF 97, subject to approval as to its form by the DDA executive director and attorney.
Support.
Okay, we have motion by the mayor and support by Ms. Early. And
I just want to make a comment
Sure.
that now that we have the motion, thank you for calling me on that last one, Gary, that we did just include in our proposed TIF plan the, trying to assist downtown businesses as much as we can. I use the statistics from this original PUMA study all the time to talk about how truly unique, and I don't think people understand this, how truly unique our downtown is to be made up of small businesses and mostly micro chains versus macro chains. We do have them. We have the main name brands on Front Street, but we have such a unique component that when I talk about it around the state, people are jealous. Other local officials are jealous. People in economic development forums want to know what we're doing. And it's been very organic. So I appreciate that we're going to use the money, this money and potentially TIF money to try and support this as we can. But I think it's also very important that we point out, and I hear people kind of starting to talk about it and starting to notice that a lot of our tradition or our longtime businesses, a lot of our locally owned businesses are being forced to change locations, whether it's a building gets bought and they're kicked out, or it's renovated or upgraded and the rents go up so high they can't afford it. And that is part of our town character. And if we lose that, that is going to change the fundamental fabric of this town. I grew up here. I was born and raised here. It's always been local businesses. And that is something that is very, very precious to us. And I want to stress that enough because without this information, we often get, oh, it's another study. Without the information we get from the study, without TIF money to assist, we're going to lose a lot of that makes our town so unique and that makes our town Traverse City. And again, this is something else that I don't think we can emphasize enough, that if we lose this, some of these tools that we have and keeping our eye on the ball of trying to make sure we're supporting our local businesses, they will go away because they cannot afford to operate in this economy with the changing hands of businesses and buildings and the changing of the tax structure. So I just wanted to emphasize that before we have this vote.
Any other comments? Okay, we have a motion to approve this market study and business retention study. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. You're on next, Harry.
Just a couple of things to highlight. As you're all aware, the two-way circulation discussion has been a long discussion. And the city created a Complete Streets Advisory Committee to look at transportation throughout the city, and this was one of the first items on their agenda. They have met twice. They met, excuse me, on the 21st, and then they met this past Monday. The language that you see in the memo is the recommendation that they're passing along to the city manager, which is in support of two-way, or just a recognition that the two-way State Street is better aligns with the Complete Streets principles than one-way configuration. So with that recommendation being passed along to the city manager, it will be before the city commission, most likely in July. And upon that, there should be a final decision, so we should have some clarity on the future of State Street, hopefully by the end of July. Excuse me. The other item, hopefully you've seen it, the mid-block crosswalk on Cass Street is completed. There's a before and after picture in your packet, but if you've walked it, you can see what a dramatic difference and improvement that is. I want to say kudos to the city engineering department who actually did the specs for this project. Not only is it more beautiful, but it's safer and it's more accessible. So the grade is at the sidewalk grade. So
I was going to say, I like how it's raised, because
Yep.
as you're driving down Cass, it actually slows you down
correct.
a little bit.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So
Also
again,
doesn't
kudos to the
cool
city
the
engineer.
water
Yes.
where you're walking.
In the future, I would anticipate other mid-block crosswalks with this similar design, as we talked about on State Street. And then just thinking about the potential lack of parking in Lot B as part of the Farmers Market Pavilion construction project, I do want to note publicly that we'll be working with the city just to get word out about all the other parking opportunities downtown, including our 2 parking structures. So I know that's not ideal for the rest of the summer season, but we will be highlighting where people can park, how they can park throughout the duration of that construction project.
Bay Line too.
Okay, thank you, Harry. Next on the agenda, we have the events and engagement report. So Sarah?
Must be a record. This is so fast. Okay, I actually have it on my phone today, so bear with me. All right, we completed some events the last time we talked, including the Art Walk series in May and June. We had a total of 34 businesses participate compared to the last time we did this event in '24. There were only 25 businesses, so great uptick there. We had a combined attendance of over 17,000 people in the DTCA district, and they hung out downtown for an average of 127 minutes. Last Saturday, we had the Old Town Arts and Crafts Fair. We had a lot of lightning bolts in the forecast, but we just had rain during setup. It gave way to sun and warm, really high winds and gusts, though, which caused some havoc for some of our vendors, but everyone kept a smile on their faces, and we had really good attendance. The Cherry Fest Arts and Crafts Fair is coming up in 2 weeks. We still need a few volunteers, about 6, I'd say, at this point. So if anyone's listening, you can reach out to me at the DDA office or email sarah@downtowntc.com. And then, of course, we have the Fine Arts Fair rounding out in September. We're looking at the Clinch Park location, and we are still seeking some more exhibitors for that fair as well. Street sale registrations are live. Membership renewals went out as well. You must be a DTC member to participate in street sale. And then it looks like we have some approval on extending the street sale footprint from Park to Boardman on Front Street. We are just busting at the seams with more and more participation every year with all those independent businesses we love. So we'll be adding that block to street sale and then keeping it open for Friday Night Live. Friday Night Live on the 14th will just be the 1 and 200 blocks. We don't need that extended space. And then Friday Night Live applications are in, and we're going through all the entertainers, food and beverage vendors, and nonprofits, and getting back with them. We will have some more food options on the street this year for people who had rumbly bellies last year. And then just a note about membership. As I mentioned, DTC memberships renewals are in progress right now. Next year, 2027, we are moving to a calendar year membership. So January through December will be the new fiscal and membership year. Thank you, everybody.
I had a quick question. Are renewals for DTCA looking to stay on pace of where they've been?
We just sent out renewals, so I can't quite answer that yet. We haven't even gone through one round of checking to see who still owes, but it's usually a multiple week process of getting those reminders and renewals. So positive feedback so far, though.
Great.
Good. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Sarah. So now we're at our last public comment. So if any member of the public wishes to make a comment, this is the opportunity. If there's any member of the board who wishes to make a comment, it's an opportunity.
Quick question about the farmer's market. I didn't hear the official announcement about where the farmer's market will go.
So in typical fashion during the Cherry Festival, the farmers market will move to the Old Town parking deck, and then it will move to Rotary Square for the remainder of the summer.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Happy Father's Day.
All right.
Happy Father's Day weekend. Happy Juneteenth. Thank you. Meeting adjourned.
All right.
This thing's going at the horseshoe.
Fastest meeting ever.